God ordained that in the seventh month, on the 15th of the month for 7 days, and then there's a feast on the 8th day, from the 15th of Tishri all the way to the 22nd, that there would be a feast, a festival of tabernacles, a festival of ingathering. This was to be a joyous feast. But what was it about? Let me tell you. In order to understand the Feast of Tabernacles, I can't help but to mention the first, which is the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which goes right along with Passover. That first feast, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, is about remembering. It's about remembering what God brought you out of. It's about remembering how God delivered you. For the Israelites, it was first that God brought them out of Egypt, out of a place of slavery, out of a place of bondage. But the problem was their disobedience to God, their unappreciativeness of what God had did led them back into another form of slavery, which was to Babylon. And so they then had to be delivered out of Babylon, and Babylon was a way of thinking. They had to be brought out of that. We know Babylon as being false religion. Again, it's a way of thinking, a way of belief, a false way of belief. So being brought out of both of those things, unleavened bread, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, is about remembering what God has delivered you from. What was your bondage? What was your Egypt that God brought you out of? What was your Babylon? What was that stinking thinking that God had brought you out of? And so being out of it now, Tabernacles is a time of rejoicing. It is a time of thankfulness. Again, remembering how God kept you and provided, because when you come out of something, especially how suddenly you are brought out of, there is a transition point where you're going from point A to point B, which is where God has brought you to. And in where God has brought you to, the tabernacling, the ingathering part of it is the bounty that you have now from where you came from and where you are now. But also remembering how God kept you, how God kept you in tents, tabernacles, how he, when you didn't have a place to stay, how he kept you through that and brought you to where you are now. When you didn't have food to eat, how he kept you and provided for you. When you didn't know where your next where your money was going to come from to pay a bill, how he kept you, how he blessed you. God is a keeper. He is a provider. He is a way maker. He opens doors no man can close. And these are things that not only do we not need to ever forget, but we also need to always remember and give thanks for how God is our provider. See, we never know from day to day what we're going to go through. And when we go through stuff, when we always are remembering what God did for us in the past, and that he is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He keeps us every day, every single day. He wakes us up. When we remember these things, no matter what that trial or tribulation is that hits us in the coming days, we can get through it. We can go through it with a joyful heart, with rejoicing, because we know that God got us. I like how Ty Tribbett says it. If he did it before, he'll do it again. Same God right now, same God back then. And that is so true. So during these next few days, these next 7, 8 days, remember where you were. Remember what God did for you. Remember how he brought you out, how he kept you, and give thanks for where you are today. All right. Bye.